Hey guys, LevelCap here. Today we're going to be reviewing the popular AR160 assault rifle for the assault class in Battlefield 4. This gun just came out with the Naval Strike expansion patch. The expansion is not out yet. There are a few wonky things with this gun. You might notice that some of the attachments, like the grips, don't quite sit well. If you have a grenade launcher on it, you're going to see some pretty funny animations if you try and switch over to your grenade launcher. But other than that, the assault rifle is in the game and it is functioning. But what we want to know and what we're going to find out today in this video is, what is this gun good for? Is it a good assault rifle? Is it better than some of the top-notch assault rifles out there? Or is it mostly just a new aesthetic addition to the game that you can use if you want, but you would be much better off with something else? Now, before I get into the stats of this weapon that have been posted in the simthic.com forums, I want to talk to you about a gun called the Scar H. This is an assault rifle. It's available in Battlefield 4. It does 34 damage maximum, and it has a 20-round magazine. The reason why I bring up this assault rifle is that the AR160 has the exact same accuracy as the Scar H. The recoil is identical. It's copy and pasted over pretty much from the Scar H. The only difference is that it shoots 80 rounds per minute faster than the Scar H, has a 30-round magazine, but does the 25 damage maximum damage model. This in effect actually makes it a much lower damaging per second weapon. It can't three-shot people like the Scar H, so you kind of have to ask yourself a question when you pick up the AR160. Do you want to use a Scar H that shoots slightly faster but does significantly less damage with a few extra rounds in the magazine? Chances are no. The Scar H is definitely a good gun. It requires a bit of precision to be good with it, but its whole point is that you can drop people very fast. You can shoot them once in the head, once in the body, and they're down. It's a two-shot gun. It does that 34 damage maximum. It's a very effective weapon. Now you swap out that big benefit that it has right there, and you give it the standard assault rifle damage model. All of a sudden you're thinking, where's the benefit now? This gun is a slower firing weapon. It's fairly accurate if you can get control of the recoil, which I will say is not as low as people have been giving this gun credit for. It's got a 0.2 recoil left, a 0.2 recoil right, and a 0.5 vertical recoil, which is very high. Granted, the first shot recoil is only 1.6, which is very, very low, so you're not going to have to do much first shot recoil compensation. But the fact that the overall vertical recoil is so extreme is going to make this gun a little bit tricky to use for anything longer than just short bursts. Now, I don't want to burst anybody's bubble here. The AR160 is a perfectly capable assault rifle. You can have a lot of fun with it. You can definitely top the scoreboards. I was doing quite well with it. The iron sights, as you can see here, are just miserable. That's the first thing you want to get rid of. Luckily, the red dot sight is a pretty quick sight that you attain for this weapon, and that should make things a bit easier. And on from there, you can use something like a stubby grip and perhaps a muzzle brake, depending on how good your recoil compensation is. If no muzzle brake, then I would recommend just going for no barrel mod or something like a flash hider. Now, some people have said, oh, use the angled foregrip because of the vertical recoil. The angled foregrip only helps with your first shot vertical recoil, and since this gun has some of the lowest first shot vertical recoil in the game, angled foregrip really isn't going to be doing much. Although I wasn't able to dig up stats for the hipfire on this weapon, it actually did seem to be fairly accurate, so that could be one of the saving graces for this. Slap a laser sight on there, do a bit of hipfire in close quarters. The rate of fire at 700 rounds per minute is definitely on the slower side of things, so you're not going to be winning out firefights against fast-firing PDWs or something like the AEK or the FAMAS. Now, when it comes down to the reload of this weapon, the short reload and long reload have some of the biggest time differences that I've seen on any assault rifle. The short reload is only 2 seconds, which definitely puts it in a very competitive place, allowing it to reload quickly for close quarter combat if need be. But the long reload is 3.5 seconds, so if you burn through your entire magazine and have to do the full-on reload, you're in a situation where you're reloading at the same lengths as something like an AEK or even the FAMAS, which is notorious for having this crazy long reloads. That's the length that you're going to be reloading for if you burn through your full magazine. So you have to be extremely magazine conscious with this weapon if you're in close quarter combat. And one of the funnier things related to reloading this weapon is that if you do hit the long reload, that animation actually hasn't been put in the game yet. So your gun is just going to pause still. You're going to hear the reload sounds, but nothing nothing is going to happen to it. So it's going to be very apparent every time you hit the long reload, as the gun is not going to be doing anything. Now, I actually really like the look of the ARX160, and I know it's called the AR160 in game, but in real life it's known as the ARX160. It's a very, very cool looking innovative assault rifle from Beretta. It looks a lot like an M4. I'm surprised it doesn't perform more like an M4 in this game, but I think part of me hoped that perhaps they would have made the gun even more accurate or given it some way to really compete and stand out a bit more. I like the look of the gun so much that I was hoping it would actually be good enough to warrant using a lot more. I'm not saying you can't use the gun all the time. In fact, maybe the recoil is going to agree with you perfectly, but really it doesn't have a lot going for it if you're trying to be a competitive, extremely effective player. If I was in a crap situation in a game and I was like, man, I need a gun that's going to get me through this, I need to put on my try-hard pants and really push us through to the next objective, the AR160 is definitely not going to be my gun of choice for any situation. And since this gun really does shine for long-range engagements, I would still not pick it for long-range situations. I think the 416, like I mentioned earlier, has easier to control recoil, so I would pick that for a long-range situation. If I was looking for something that had good versatility, I would pick the ACE-23. If I knew it was going to be close quarters chaos, I would pick the AEK. None of those situations warrant something where the AR60 really kind of stands out. It's like, oh man, I need to go to town, get the AR60 out. You know, it's just, unfortunately, with a rate of fire of 700, the gun has to be good at long range, and it's just not quite as good as some of its competitors. And when I say AR60, I do of course mean the AR160. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to play around with all the scope options. I have started to unlock the battle packs, but again, we can't access those battle packs in Battle Log just yet, so you are stuck to all the American sites that unlock by default with the weapon. So you got the US red dot site and then the US holo site. I wouldn't recommend using any higher magnification sites than that. Now, if you feel like you're going to dedicate yourself to this weapon for a while, or you're just so in love with the gun in real life that you want to make it your primary weapon in Battlefield, and I can understand that passion. Sometimes people get really excited about certain weapons and they're going to use them no matter what their stats are in game. I would recommend using the stubby grip and the muzzle brake. That's going to help you with your vertical recoil, and it's going to improve the accuracy, or rather tame the accuracy from that muzzle brake. It's going to allow you to really just get some shots at longer range. I think that was the most effective setup that I had for this weapon. If you have really good recoil control, you can of course avoid the muzzle brake, but I would say the stubby grip is definitely one of the better attachments for this. An important thing to remember with all weapons in the game is that they're not necessarily set in stone. If people decide that the AR160 is too underpowered, DICE could always give it a buff. The Dow 12 just got a nerf because of how effective it was with flechette rounds. Anyway, try out the gun for yourself. Let me know what you think of it in the comments section, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys next time. This is LevelCap, signing off.